Hi folks, I want to talk to you about, in our first mini lecture, about existential psychotherapy / counseling. Now I know we didn't have as much practice as any of us would have liked with the therapeutic listening section, but that's the way the cards have been dealt. So, this is not a wormhole to another galaxy, it's just a ceiling vent. But this topic of existential psychotherapy may feel as if we've taken a turn into the mysterious, because this kind of psychotherapy is really as much a philosophy of life as it is a kind of counseling. Now, for those of you who do not like a lot of structure, who do not like a lot of techniques that must be learned for a particular kind of counseling, this might be for you. If you like to think about helping people with ultimate life problems, if you like to work at an emotional level with people, this might be for you. So for some clients, this is ideal. In fact, at the University of Oklahoma Counseling and Testing Services, this is listed, existential psychotherapy, as one of the forms of therapy that you are able to receive if you go there as a student, faculty, or staff member to get counseling. Interesting. And the reason that is available is because it serves a very unique function in that it can help directly with people searching for meaning, for searching for goals that they may have for their lives. And so it works really well, particularly for the college population, as you might imagine. Well, the big names in this therapy are Rollo May, Irving Yalom, Viktor Frankl. If you get a chance, read Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's a relatively short book, and it's a seminal work, and it really talks a lot about this idea of what you are or are not in control of, and making decisions for how you want to live your life, despite limitations. Okay, so as I said, existentialism really is both a philosophy and a philosophical approach to counseling. And it focuses on the need for commitment in your life to addressing how you want to live your life and what you want to move towards. Okay, so there is a video I have linked in your PowerPoint on this subject to Rollo May talking about how he does counseling. And in fact, I shouldn't touch my face, but I just did it, didn't I? How he works with one particular client. And what he will tell you is that you are really a co-explorer if you are an existential psychotherapist. There is not this idea of the doctor and the patient. That's really not the way it goes. Even though Irving Yalom, who is perhaps the most recognizable voice in this area of counseling, is a medical doctor, he really is very clear that you are a co-participant in the journey of the client, right? And you both influence each other in that way, much in the same way that that other people in these groupings of counseling, Gestalt, existentialism, and person-centered, that have this same idea about how you each affect each other in the counseling journey. So one of the things that that existentialism is very careful to talk about is that all of us have anxiety in our lives as part of the human condition. And you know this biologically is true. You know this is interpersonally true. This is part of our brains. This is a part of all the animal world. And we must understand that we also have a finite life, that our life, biologically anyway, regardless of your views otherwise, ends at some point, and that we all share this ultimate end. And therefore, we can say somewhat directly that one of our jobs is to carry each other home. And so in some ways, when you work with a client using existential psychotherapy, you are really helping to carry them along in their journey as they move through their lives. Yes? So, So existential psychotherapy, there I go touching my mouth again, and face, quit it, Rich, has a number of concerns in addition to having a finite life, that we have the freedom to choose what we're going to do. And we have to address and become comfortable with things like being unsure and not certain of what's going to happen in our lives. That can be a source of excitement and for some anxiety. We also have to understand that we live a life of isolation, that we do our best to connect to others, and that's what we've got, and that we have to wrestle with the inherent meaninglessness of the world around us. So the natural world doesn't care who we are and doesn't give us entitlement to anything. And we might sometimes feel as if we're not as important as we wish to be. But in fact, as a thread within a fabric of human existence, we do have meaning, but we have to wrestle with all of this. Okay? So there's a difference between normal anxiety and neurotic anxiety. And in existentialism, normal anxiety is proportionate to a situation and not blown out of proportion. It does not require us to repress it and make it disappear. And it can be used creatively. We can take anxiety and choose to make it an activating emotion for ourselves to accomplish things. That's opposed to neurotic anxiety, which is disproportionate. I don't know why I'm doing that. Disproportionate to the situation, which then tends to be repressed, and it has the unfortunate consequence of paralyzing us. So let's distinguish those two things. Neurotic anxiety makes us worry about the future, the past, those kinds of things. But normal anxiety is basically allows us to create an evaluation of what we want to do next. Okay? All right. Sources of pathology and problems, according to existentialists, include things like a loss of meaning when big things happen and maybe bad things happen and you sort of lose your place in your connections. That can happen, certainly, and will happen to almost everyone, right? We can find ourselves not having relationships and feeling alienated. We can not make choices, which causes us a paralysis, and so or there's a result of a paralysis, either way you look at it. And then pathology can also come from denying alternatives that we have. There are always creative alternatives in making choices, yes? Okay. Our role as a counselor in existentialism has to do with not using techniques, because officially there are no techniques in existentialism. How about that one? But we are sensitive to the nonverbals. We are really involved with the client's journey. It's not even unusual for existentialists to share relevant personal stories to deepen a connection to a client. Not that we become the client, of course. And so this is what we're doing is helping a client understand not just their subjective feelings, but gain a much better understanding and potential path to finding a new way of being in the world. And so that means living productively in the present and not trying to restore an old past, not imagining that if we look at the past that we will create a different past. That's just not ever going to happen. And again, another interesting feature of this kind of therapy is, they're going to touch your face. Don't touch your face, Richard. Is there are no psychological tests or diagnoses. Now, of course, if a client is using a source like insurance, then you may be required to provide one, in which case, if the insurance company will accept a V code, or a minor but allowable, a consistent diagnosis, then we might have to offer one, but not officially according to this way of doing psychotherapy. The main goals are helping clients be more aware of themselves and accept who they are, to confront their anxieties and fears. And so please read the rest of the information on this and look at the role of freedom and isolation and how we approach those things. Okay? So I'll see you again real soon.